Let's crack on with the stories, kicking things off with the Mail, and another venue has decided that it's so inclusive it has to exclude Graham Linehan, Cressida.
OK, the Daily Mail. Graham Linehan arrives to defiantly perform outside the Scottish Parliament after outrage at 2 Edinburgh Festival venues that cancelled him for his gender-critical views. I think we've got a video we're going to...
Yeah, we do have a clip of the gig's going ahead. So it's going ahead outside the Scottish Parliament?
Yeah, exactly. So if you haven't heard this story already, first venue pulled out. They said, no, we can't do business with Mr Linehan for his gender-critical views. That got solved. They got a second venue. And today, at the last minute, that got pulled.
Yeah.
And so but they were determined to go ahead. They said, what we'll do is we won't have all the breaks. We'll shorten the show. We'll just go ahead and we'll do it outside the Scottish Parliament. How good is that? I think that's the real spirit of the Fringe, isn't it?
It's punk.
Well, I think the spirit of the Fringe is not silencing people. I mean, it's written in their ethos. They say, oh, we're an open access arts festival where anybody can come and have their voice heard. But apparently not. Apparently not. If you're not approved by whatever the orthodoxy is of the day, you can imagine, back in the day, if you're Galileo and you opposed a sort of the idea of the sun rotating around the Earth, and you said actually the Earth rotates around the sun, then they'd cancel you there. This time they're cancelling Graham Linehan for similarly provable beliefs. We've got a clip of the gig that did go ahead.
I read on this is the #1 comedy night in front of the Scottish Parliament in the whole of the Edinburgh Festival this
And that was Dominic Frisby there playing his ukulele, and Graham Linehan was on a bit later. But I mean, it seems ridiculous. And the response from the comedy community, I mean, a lot of comedians like Elliot Steele, Darius Davies have come out and said, this is ridiculous, don't cancel comedians. But some, like Jo Caulfield, has come out and approved of this cancelling, as if she's so certain that she's always going to be on the right side of approved opinion.
So one thing I would say, without we're taking out any personal names out of it whatsoever, the people that are most comfortable with cancellation are those who genuinely believe they are nowhere near cancellation.
Yeah.
If they thought for a minute they'd be anywhere near cancellation, then they'd have a very different point of view. And make no mistake, if it can happen to... Because this didn't happen to Graham, this happened to Unleashed, and Graham just happened to be on the bill, and they just came for it because Graham was involved. And I've listened to the rhetoric all day today from, rival TV stations in particular, and it's almost like they've tried to gaslight people here. They're sort of saying, well, cancellations and those that have been cancelled are basically orchestrated by those that have been cancelled, because, they know they should be cancelled, therefore they put themselves in the limelight, and then they're cancelled, and then they scream cancellation. What a load of old horse. But at the end of the day, right, private venues do have a right. But it's not necessarily... In the first case of the first venue, it was the private venue that made the decision. Arguably in the second, but we should be much kinder to the second, because the second essentially said, do you know what? We have no issue with this going on, but we just know it's going to cause us too much trouble. And within that lies the major issue here. The activists behind the scenes saying, you do this, we'll make fuss.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be a Fringe tradition now. Last year we had Jerry Sadowitz. Previous years, we've had other people cancelled. I was cancelled from the Perth Fringe in Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think this is going to the opprobrium and the fuss around this is going to lead venues to just move the cancellation higher up the food chain and just cancel people before they've even been booked instead of waiting for a furore?
Maybe, or it's going to go the other way. I mean, there's quotes in here from members of the public who'd bought tickets saying, if there are protests, I think we'll carry on. That's just an audience member. She's seeing it as, this belongs to her. She's angry. She says, we're quite used to this sort of nonsense from children. I think it's really about supporting free speech in general, because if we cancel comedy, where do we go next? I think people have just had enough.
Yeah. But if the venues, I mean, this is the trouble. And so many venues are gatekeepers because they're not dependent on audience money. They get funding from the Arts Council or various, government subsidies, local authority subsidies. So they can pick and choose who they think is valid and important to place in front of the audiences. And I just think the market should decide. If somebody's performing in front of 200 members of the public, you can't say, oh, this person's a vicious, racist, sexist, transphobic extremist, because they're performing in front of members of the public. I mean, members of the public wouldn't go and see that.
And the people that come to Unleashed, they absolutely love it. You see the same faces turn up at the gigs. It's got a following. I think it's like a bit of a cult following kind of thing. It's cool. It always sells out. It sold out way before Graham's name got brought into it. It's people want it. It's popular.
It's far more popular than all these shows by woke comedians at the fringe. Like woke comedies like women's football. It gets written about a lot in The Guardian, but you wouldn't really want to watch it anyway.